The vice presidential debate between JD Vance and Tim Walz started with Walz looking like he was on whatever Biden did during his debate, and immediately got stuck on one word like Kamala.
Fundamental, Donald Trump.
But at least he could speak, because like Trump on ABC's debate, CBS tried to make it 3-on-1 as well.
We haven't built a nuclear facility, I think, one in the past 40 years.
Senator,
natural gas that we're doing
Senator,
worse by the climate.
Senator, your time is up.
Tim,
Governor, your time is up. Senator,
Margaret, but
thank you, Senator. We have so much to get to.
Margaret, I think it's important because
we're going to turn out of the economy. Thank you,
Margaret. The rules were that you guys weren't going to fact check, and since you're fact checking me, I think it's important to say what's actually going on.
Thank you, Senator, for describing the legal process. We have so much to get to, Senator. The audience can't hear you because your mics are cut. We have so much we want to get to. Thank you for explaining the legal process. Nora.
Thank you, Margaret.
But to their credit, after JD Vance called them out, they did slam Walz for yet another lie about his shady past.
You said you were in Hong Kong during the deadly Tiananmen Square protests in the spring of 1989. But Minnesota Public Radio and other media outlets are reporting that you actually didn't travel to Asia until August of that year. Can you explain that discrepancy?
Yeah, well, and to the folks out there who didn't get at the top of this, look, I grew up in small rural Nebraska, town of 400, town that you rode your bike with your buddies till the streetlights came on, and I'm proud of that service. I joined the National Guard at 17, worked on family farms, and then I used the GI Bill to become a teacher, passionate about it, a young teacher. My first year out, I got the opportunity in the summer of '89 to travel to China. Or whether it was being a good soldier or it was being a good member of Congress, those are the things that I think are the values that people care about.
Governor, just to follow up on that, the question was, can you explain the discrepancy?
All I said on this was I got there that summer and misspoke on this. So I will just, that's what I've said. So I was in Hong Kong and China during the democracy protests went in. And from that, I learned a lot of what needed to be in governance.
Thank you, Governor.
So just like when he blamed Grammar for his stolen valor, he's blaming being a knucklehead that misspeaks when talking about his history, as that meltdown yet again takes something insignificant and blows it up into a scandal, because simply put, he's a liar and a bad one at that, as he repeats Harris's same debunked fear-mongering talking points.
Their Project 2025 is going to have a registry of pregnancies,
which JD Vance quickly dissolved.
Senator, do you want to respond to the governor's claim? Will you create a federal pregnancy monitoring agency?
No, Nora, certainly we won't.
So Walz went right back into the next lie.
Eliminate access to infertility treatments. For so many of you out there listening, me included, infertility treatments are why I have a child. That's nobody else's business, but those things are being proposed.
Where he said this before.
Yeah, first of all, it was up to him. I wouldn't have a family because of IVF and the things that we need to do reproductive. My kids were born through that that way.
But even CNN has called him out on it.
This is what Governor Walz said on MSNBC while criticizing JD Vance. Take a listen.
JD Vance knows nothing about that. And then he keeps going into all of these things. Today's IVF day. Thank God for IVF. My wife and I have 2 beautiful children.
That's not accurate, right? I mean, it wasn't IVF.
As not only was Walz lying about his treatment, he was lying about Trump's opposition to the treatment.
I'm announcing today in a major statement that under the Trump administration, your government will pay for, or your insurance company will be mandated to pay for, all costs associated with IVF treatment, fertilization for women, IVF treatment.
So like clockwork, Walz went into the next lie.
Governor, I do want to let you respond to the allegation that the vice president is letting in
Well, of course,
migrants,
that's not true. And again, you have the
affecting
facts. I guess we agreed not to fact check. I'll check it. That, look, crossings are down compared to when Donald Trump left office.
As even most Democrats acknowledge, crossings have skyrocketed ever since Biden asked them to surge the border. We talked about the wide open situation in Texas and Arizona, the murky circumstances of who exactly is walking through Biden's borders, the mysterious beach landings that are happening in California, where they leave behind $10,000 boats with black SUVs waiting for them on the streets. All up until 2 days ago, when Kamala finally decided to address the border, only to immediately be called out by the Border Patrol. Which brings us to the most insane thing said ever during a political debate.
We want to turn now to America's gun violence epidemic.
I've spent time in Finland and seen some Finnish schools. They don't have this happen, even though they have a high gun ownership rate in the country.
And I appreciate what Tim said actually about Finland, because I do think it illustrates some of the frankly weird differences between our own country's gun violence problem and Finland. Is okay, first of all.
And I have no idea why Walz wanted to open up the discussion as to why Finland doesn't see the same crimes as the States, because... But JD Vance brought it back to law enforcement.
Another driver of the gun violence epidemic, especially that affecting our kids, it doesn't earn as many headlines, but is the terrible gun violence problem in a lot of our big cities. And this is why we have to empower law enforcement to arrest the bad guys, put them away, and take gun offenders off the streets.
And then Tim said this.
I've become friends with school shooters. I've seen it. Look.
It was so off-putting and strange, he was even tracked down and asked about it immediately after.
What do you think your strongest moment was tonight?
Oh, just, I think it was a good debate. The public got to see a contrast. And I think the ending sums it up. The democracy issue is important.
Governor, you said you become friends with school shooters during the debate. Can you clarify what you meant on that?
Can you clarify what you meant when you said you befriended school shooters?
So it's not like he couldn't hear them, because obviously he answered the question before it, and it's not like it didn't happen, as everybody online is talking about it, including everybody in that room with Tim. And instead of just clearing it up and saying, it's a 90-minute televised debate, I messed up and meant to say, I've befriended a lot of school victims, or made friends at schools that teach how to shoot safely. I don't know, just anything that isn't literally hiding behind your wife. Because let's just say he does become vice president. He's going to make mistakes, everybody does. But if he misspeaks to Russia, or has bad grammar with Iran, we're gonna need leaders that can do better than hide behind their wives or cackle about being a middle-class kid. And now that the world has seen Walz up close, even CNN can't defend him.
I think there was a clear lack of preparation and execution here on Walz's part.
I think actually it's the opposite. I think he had too much preparation.
Maybe.
The lack of interviews that he has done with national media, with local media, it showed. He needed more reps.
MSNBC was actually mad about it.
I am just kind of like, well, if you agree so much with JD Vance, why should they vote for you?
But then tried to attack JD Vance for mansplaining.
Yeah. And I actually think if you're a woman, that might be the worst moment JD Vance had, because he was going to mansplain right over that mute button. He was, and again, I don't...
And if JD Vance was actually bad, they'd be calling him out for something that he said or done. But MSNBC crying about the patriarchy just shows how desperate they are to find a flaw in him and failing pathetically. And I'll be honest, I had no idea who JD Vance was, or why Donald Trump would pick some random senator that had been so previously outspoken against him. But after this debate, all that doubt went away, as I think he was a great choice for vice president. Not to say Vivek, Tulsi, or even Tucker wouldn't have been excellent choices as well. Hell, after seeing Tim cower behind his wife after the debate, Trump could have picked Kanye and I still think he'd win. So if you appreciate my concise, lighthearted, almost poetic commentary on the tragic status that is today's reality, hopefully I've earned your subscription, then go check out the video on how Kamala ditched hurricane victims to do a basketball podcast just to find out they hate her too.